All right, hello again, and welcome to the OnStage Colorado Podcast. I'm Alex Miller, and with me once again is arts reporter Toni Tresca on a very kind of drizzly, snowy Saturday morning here on February 3rd. How's it going, Toni?
Going pretty good. How about yourself, Alex?
All right, and get ready to go over to Miners Alley later today to see Amelia's Big Idea, which I believe is the first children's show in their new space. So I'm curious to see how that's configured there. And then, it's got some other shows coming up, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So we'll look at some of the shows that we've reviewed recently on the site and take a look at what's coming up all around the state. Also later in this episode, we have an interview with Kate Kissingford from the UpstART Theatre all the way down in Ouray. They'll be doing Heroes of the Fourth Turning February 2nd through 5th at the historic Wright Opera House. And we had a great conversation about how they started the theater down there and how they kept it going with really good productions. It's interesting also to note that Noelia Antweiler is reprising her role as Teresa, who's the conservative wacko in that play that we saw her in Curious Theater production in 2022. So anyway, that's the Heroes of the Fourth Turning down in Ouray, if you happen to be down that way. And also wanted to talk just a little bit about our awards that we announced in our last podcast. And I think we got a lot of nice feedback from them. What'd you think, Toni?
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of folks that they were really happy that we did decide to do the award show. There was a lot of theatrical excellence that was happening in the state. And so it was really cool, I think, to just be able to kind of touch and gesture to the breadth of that work, just how much there was. And I heard a lot of really good responses. People really loved the Lauren Boebert Award, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit more later.
Yeah. I had a lot of nice responses, and we had kind of agonized over like, are we giving too many out? But I don't know. I think people really, the other awards they just don't touch, like they just kind of hit the very top of the shows that happen. And it's a whole year of so much great stuff. So I don't feel bad about it.
Agreed. And so I did hear a little bit of criticism. Somebody did ask why we didn't have a stage manager category or recognize that, and heard. Maybe we can consider that. I did.
And another one I realized we didn't have was like a children's theater. So I would definitely want to add that for next year, maybe like a children's theater program award, because that's super important stuff to have going on at theater whenever theaters can do it. So
totally agree.
Yeah. The thing about stage managers is it's really hard for us as critics or reviewers to really discern that. I don't know. It might be more of a, maybe we can have some like polls for that kind of award among the theater community, because they would know a lot better than we would about something like that.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So anyway, well, thanks for everybody that listened in. We had a huge spike on our website of people checking in to see who won, and everybody sharing out their awards. And I got all the certificates out to everybody. If for some reason you didn't get yours, hit us up on the site and I'll send it over.
I've heard from quite a few folks that they are looking forward to proudly hanging their awards in the theater. So that was cool.
Yeah. It's definitely helps, a little third-party endorsement there. So, all right. So another thing that, we spoke about this last fall with the whole Lauren Boebert thing. And it made me think that, since one of our awards was for audience participation for Lauren Boebert, which I didn't send to her, but I did tag her on the Facebook post that I did of it, her Lauren Boebert for Congress or whatever. So I don't know if I'm sure she didn't see it, but anyway, so, that incident at the Denver Center at Beetlejuice was a really extreme example of a breach of theater etiquette. But it made me think that, maybe we could go a little bit deeper into, what normal average people who aren't necessarily going to be like groping and vaping and taking pictures and singing at the top of their lungs. But there's a lot of little things that you kind of need to know about theater, because it's different than being at a sporting event or a concert or even a movie theater, because you've got live people on stage So I was looking at, there was a list from Playbill, an article, and I found another Emily Post article about some things and some of our own observations. So what would you say are the basics, Toni?
I guess basics are probably just like be respectful, turn off anything that makes a sound. like, if you want to break it down to like the two big points, I think most behavior at a theater falls into those. But yeah, we can get into the nitty gritty because I feel like there are still like, it's so obvious to us, but like, I was at the opening night last night at the Denver Center, and right at the emotional cliffhanger of the play, the entire audience was treated to a phone call for like 30 seconds. And so it was so awkward for the audience, for everybody in the audience. Everybody was looking away from the stage, looking at this person. I imagine this person felt very uncomfortable too. That's probably not like a...
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't. Maybe they feel no shame. But
I like to think they were dying inside.
I like to think I would be dying, because I know I would be dying inside if like a phone or something went off or like something like that. But no, so let's hop into it.
And
Basics, definitely turn off the phone.
I know. Doesn't it seem though, whenever the phone does go off, that it takes the person an inordinately long time to get it off? It's like, for God's sakes, pull it out and turn it off. How hard is that? You know?
Yes.
But anyway,
I forget what show I was at. It was last year, but somebody had their phone on and they were playing a podcast out loud for like the first 30 minutes of the show. And I thought I was going crazy because I was just like hearing another voice. And then I finally just like, I realized what was happening. And this person had no idea. I guess they could not hear that it was playing out quite out loud. But I did. I eventually was like, went over and I was like, please, can you please just like pull your phone out? Your thing is like, it's been on the whole time. So please just double check those cell phones, folks. Yeah,
I know it seems like a really redundant message at the top of every show, but there's always somebody who didn't get the message. Or, oh yeah, I'm sure it's off, and it's like, just check it for God's sakes. So and yeah, that point about how it pulls focus from the actors on stage is really important, because it's not just about like the person next to you, but it's like, they can hear you up there on stage.
They can. And are you so this is a personal question I find I do get asked this quite a bit in theaters. Are you a phone completely off, or are you an airplane mode, do not disturb person?
I do airplane mode, and then I also, and there's a second thing that a lot of people I think need to recognize, is that smartwatches, like my Apple Watches have a theater setting on them, which makes them so that they don't, the lights don't come on. So that can be distracting too, because someone, they lift up their hand and you can see this glowing thing on their wrist. And but I've never had any issues with just using airplane mode, and of course having the sound off and theater mode on my watch. So, but turning it off would certainly take care of it very well also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I'm a total off person. I like willpower. The second, like right as soon as that announcement starts, I power the phone completely off. I'm like,
yeah, probably wise. And it's good to turn off your phone once in a while too. It resets it, makes it all better. So,
I didn't even know that, but yeah, I'll take it.
Another point that they made in these articles was to get there on time, and there's nothing more annoying than having latecomers shuffling into their seats, even if the ushers have held them, for the end of a scene or something like that. It's just annoying. And it's like, yeah, you may have some extenuating circumstances, but basically you just if the curtain is at 7:30, you need to be there by 7, 10 after at the latest.
I agree. This is the perfect day for us to be having this conversation, because I was at Cibolas yesterday at the Denver Center, and after we were 15, 20 minutes into the play, and and the usher comes up to me, because I was on the end, and they're like, you got to get up. The people just got here and they're right in the middle there. Yeah. So, they were like, and they can't move very well, so you need to get up and let them by. And so we did. Me and my friend and I, we got up, we did, but it was very, very awkward, because it was just like this shuffling all the way through to the center, because we were on the end. We could get up and move, but the folks in the center, they were just like, they were just dealing with that. So yeah, it
goes without saying that the latecomers are always in the center. It's just the Murphy's Law there.
It does.
Some of these things, it's if you're at a really high energy musical or something like that, some of these things aren't as disturbing. Somebody could be opening up a candy wrapper during, Mamma Mia, nobody's going to hear it. But, in a quiet play, that in a small theater especially. So it can really be heard. And Another thing that I wanted to mention is that, you know, if we were going to the theater in, like, I don't know, back in the 60s or 70s or maybe even the 80s, like, people would dress, you know, they would, a guy would be in a suit, you know, a woman would have on a dress, and nobody's expecting you to show up like that. But I think there's an unspoken, but I don't know, tacit agreement among most people that go to theater that you don't show up the same way you do as, you know, at the ball game or whatever. But I have seen some people that, you know, they look like they're going to be in one of those seen in Walmart websites. You know, it's like, are you wearing your pajamas? For God's sakes, it's the theater.
Yeah, I definitely, I can understand people showing up in their work clothes to the theater, because like I do that. Like there are just days when I'm like, I cannot change into like a more fancy outfit. I'm showing up in my like slacks with my slacks or whatever, and like maybe a collared shirt or something. But no, I when I can, I do enjoy dressing up a little bit nicer. I was just as I've mentioned, I guess 3 times already. I was at the Denver Center last night, and I was sitting over in Dazzle, the jazz club, after the show got let out, and Chicago was letting out later. And oh my God, it was like a fashion walk. The people who showed up to Chicago, they were dressed to the nine. So I was like, I guess it still exists. Maybe it just depends on the setting and things like that. Like, I think you definitely don't want to show up to the Denver Center, maybe, in like your Walmart clothes, but if you're going to you're going to a smaller theater, just got off work or something. Maybe you're in maybe you don't have time to go back home and change. Maybe that's okay. I think context does matter.
But I think collared shirt for a guy, and I don't know how you would define that for women or anybody else, but try and step up your game a little bit. And my son Andy, who's about your age, is likes to dress very casually, and I'm always having to remind him to change out his rumpled Hawaiian shirt when we go to the theater together. So one other thing, and this is something that another theater writer here in Colorado, John Moore, who a lot of people know, I think this is one of his pet peeves, is when people in the wintertime have their coat and it's kind of hanging over the back of their chair and encroaching on the space of the person behind you. So this is a bit of theater etiquette that you wouldn't hear if you lived in Florida or some other warmer place. But yeah, you've got to control your coats, people. You got to, of course, some places have coat checks, which is a good idea if you're into that. But yeah, just make sure that your coat isn't flopping over or anything else is encroaching on anybody else's space.
That's a good one. I don't ever think I never think to check my coat at a coat check or anything, because I know quite a few of the theaters have it, and the DCPA has it. Curious has it. I think they've got it at the Arvada Center. So I was like, a couple of these places do have that, but I never think of it. I hope I'm not that seat person with the big jacket.
Well, it's also worth thinking about what kind of coat you're wearing to the theater. If you have this beautiful long cashmere wool coat that looks great but is going to be really hard to stow once you're seated, you might go with like your more easily balled up puffer coat. If you can sacrifice the style for it just fits a lot better in the chair.
The overcoat may complete your theatrical look, as we were saying just a second ago, but maybe not for the theater. Maybe check that at the door.
So when we were talking about Potted Potter at the Newman Center a few weeks ago, that I had the experience of having a little kid behind me who clearly should not have been at that show and who wouldn't shut up. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't bring kids to the theater. It's just you got to be really aware of like, well, how old is this kid? How well, I have 5 children. I have, there are some that I wouldn't hesitate to take to, when they were little to a show, and some that I knew just, that wasn't, they couldn't sit still for it. So you need to know your kid. But this suggestion in one of these articles, Playbill, suggests explaining a little bit about the show beforehand, because a lot of times kids are saying, what's this? What's that? What's happening? So if you can tell them a little bit about the show and the story, and also they suggested playing the quiet game, okay, so when the lights are off, we can't talk, or something like that. But the bottom line is if the kid can't shut up, you need to leave, and hopefully you can go out there and settle them down and come back. But you've got to recognize that, theater tickets are not cheap. And if your child is ruining the show for everybody around you, that ain't cool.
Yeah. And that one's always hard, because you do want to encourage kids to come to the theater, but also you're like, not at the expense of everybody else. Because you're right, theater's not, it's not exactly cheap, particularly with some of these larger theaters over at Newman Center or DCPA. So no, it's like you got to control those kids.
Yep. Did you have any tips or peeves that you wanted to mention before we close out here?
I had one, but now I'm blanking.
Okay, well, if you think of that, I had one last one. Pick up your shit on the way out. Like, most ushers are volunteers, if not all of them, and they don't need to go in there and be picking up your rumpled program or your left behind water bottle or whatever it is. Just, pack it in, pack it out, as they say on the trail, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. The other one that is also always gets me, and I don't have a great answer to this, is like I've had quite a few situations in which I have had people like get up to have to go to the bathroom and then they have to come back in. I feel like that is such a big one. Like, and it feels weird to be like, go to the bathroom before the show, but like, go to the bathroom before the show, because a lot of these theaters don't have the infrastructure in place to like help complete that experience. Like, sometimes you are just stuck out of luck. You get locked out. I know over in Littleton Town Hall, I believe they have a little monitor. So if you get locked out, you can watch the rest of the show kind of down in the lobby. But that's not every space. Sometimes you just are out of luck, or then you are that awkward person who has to crawl back over people in the middle of the show. So for the love of God, go to the bathroom before the show.
That's I guess goes without saying, but you said it, and it's probably a good reminder. So anybody's listening, it's just, if you got a good pet peeve that we didn't cover, shoot us an email at info@onstagecolorado.com, and this will close out our grumpy old men segment here where we're talking about. So, but I know it's something that everybody has an opinion. So, all right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, a look around the state at all the live theater coming up as we get deeper into February. The OnStage Colorado podcast is supported by Town Hall Art Center, whose production of Urinetown runs January 26th through February 25th. The 3-time Tony Award-winning musical comedy is set in a collapsing urban metropolis where a 20-year drought has led to a government-enforced ban on private toilets. The citizens must use public amenities owned and operated by an evil corporation that profits by charging admission to the most popular seat in the house, so to speak. A hero will rise, a revolution will be sparked, and an unlikely love story will unfold. Get tickets at townhallartcenter.org. OnStage Colorado is also grateful for support from the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, BETC, whose next show is What the Constitution Means to Me by Heidi Schreck. In this smart and timely comedy, Schreck resurrects her 15-year-old self who traveled the country competing in American Legion speech competitions to save money for college. Unearthing her perspective on the Constitution then and now, she delves into 4 generations of women in her family and how the founding document shaped their lives. The show plays in both Denver and Boulder. Info and tickets at betsy.org. All right, welcome back to the OnStage Colorado Podcast. I'm Alex Miller here with Toni Tresca, and it's time for our weekly peek into some of the shows you can see on stage right now and around Colorado. And my gosh, Toni, when I was putting this together, I feel like I say this a lot, but holy crap, there's a lot of theater going on around right now.
There truly is.
Yeah.
This weekend alone, I was like, there's like 3 different openings, and I'm not even able to get to everything that's opening. I'm like, there's so much happening all the time, constantly opening. Runs are getting extended. I say this all the time too, but it's a great time to be into theater in Colorado.
Yeah, especially on a really drippy, dreary day like this. It's a great time to go into the theater if you're not going up for a powder day. So some of the shows that we've recently reviewed include Urinetown at Town Hall Art Center in Littleton. Oh my God, this is a banger of a show. What a great cast. And what a great show, directed by Robert Michael Sanders there at Town Hall. And it's just such a fun show. It's a weird story, but a great one to see.
I am super looking forward to it. I'm going to be there. I'll be making an appearance at the Denver Actors Fund night to catch the show, because this is one of my favorites. It's a great musical comedy. I got a chance to talk with the team for Westward, and it just sounds like they've done a bang-up job. Your review was super complimentary as well, so I am pumped to venture down to Urinetown.
Yeah, Andy and I walked out of that going, how does a little theater like that put on such an amazing show? And it's a really
Yeah.
big cast on a really small stage, and the choreography has got it all in this confined space, and it's all really good, and a great on-stage live band. Wow, what a show.
I got stopped at the Denver Center yesterday by one of my friends on the security team because he was like, "Me and my husband, we were just, we know you're a theater person, and I just want to make a recommendation to you. You need to go to Littleton to see Urinetown if it's not on your list already." They were like, "I've never seen this is probably the biggest musical they've seen over in the space." And he was raving about how impressive the dancing was with that many people on that tiny of a space. Which, I mean, Ronnie Stark I know is incredible. I've seen her work several times. But that just got me even more pumped. I was like, when you get someone on the street who stops you to tell you how good good a show is, that's something special.
Yeah, and I was watching to see, like, are they bumping into each other? And I saw it on opening night, when you might have seen those glitches, and they really had it tight. And one of the other things that was cool about this show is that they had the actor Sam Barrasso, is that her last name? She's blind, I believe. I've seen her in family shows, but she also comes out and does some shows at other theaters as well, and she did a great job. She had a really kind of irascible, kind of unpleasant character in places, but she also really managed to go through and do all all that choreography with the help of some of the other actors, like holding her arm and stuff like that. So that's a really, really cool thing to see. Also, we just had a review of Feed Dry, which is the Catamount's intermersive thing, where it's like they have a kind of a really nice dinner with pairings, and our reviewer Julie Walker said, "By no means your average dinner theater, rather the immersion as patron and participant into the pairings of food, drink, sound, and speech offers a truly unique and highly pleasurable theatrical evening well worth experiencing." So that one is going on for, I think, a few more weeks at the Dairy Arts Center in Boulder.
Yeah, that one's through, I believe, February 10th. So you've got, and I believe there's only a few more tickets left to that one. It's a full 4-course meal, $90 for the whole experience, plays, music, a 4-course meal, drinks, and everything. I actually went to this one as well. And I did the dry experience, and it was very, very enjoyable. I think my favorite part about these shows from the Catamounts is honestly the kind of table talk that you get to do,
right?
Because they seat you directly at a table with other folks. So whether you're coming alone or you're coming with another party, you are talking to other human beings who live in the same area that you are. And it was honestly just so pleasurable to just kind of like discuss that and then reflect on that with the table. So I thought that they put together a really nice slate of programming to kind of reflect on indulgence and the importance of maybe dry living.
Yeah, that's true. It's like the family style seating really adds. It's a simple thing to do, but we don't do it all that often. Where we're in a situation where you have to sit at a table with other people, and it's nice usually.
Yeah.
So also recently reviewed on the site Misery at Miners Alley. So this runs just for another week or so to February 11th. And our reviewer Eric said, "Watching the 3 actors in Misery is like being in a master's acting class, as Annie Emma Messenger has perfected the slide from the ordinary to the criminally insane. There's no mistaking her brilliance when it comes to capturing Annie's emotional imbalance." So yeah, everybody's raving about this one.
I was like, I saw this one a couple weeks ago, I guess, now, and it's just something. It's so special, such a special production over there, and I would honestly say it's like in kind of incredible usage. The acting is obviously incredible. I can't say it any better than Eric just did. That's a really great way to put it. But the other thing I'd love to highlight is like it's a really impressive spectacle of the new technical capabilities of that space. I feel like Great American Trailer Park Musical kind of got a little bit more off. It was riding high on cheese rather than like the technical elements in there. But then Warren Sherrill comes in and he is working with just. It takes such precision to be able to do the rapid fire light, sound, fire effects, fight choreography. It's just a really impressive production altogether, in addition to the incredible performances. And kick-ass story over there. I mean, I have no desire to see the movie now after this. Like, why would I watch the movie? I feel like I've already seen the best version of the story.
Right. Yeah, it's true that when you go from a little theater to a bigger theater, it opens up a lot more opportunities for how you can, use the space and what kind of set you can do. And so now Miners Alley has like almost the sky's the limit with the room they have now. So. Speaking of going from a small space to a bigger space, Clink Clink is from 2 Cent Lion, which is a newish original theater company that a couple of 3 DU students started a few years ago. And so they're bringing back this show, Clink Clink, to the People's Building. Originally, it was in a little black box theater at DU. So this is January. This runs through February 11th. And Eric saw this. Keeping the action in Elliot's bedroom, the playwright Douglas focuses on the characters and their relationship with few distractions. It's exceptionally well paced, so that all the sensitive nuances of the script are beautifully explored without ever belaboring their emotional impact. And he says it's exciting to witness the work of a talented new playwright. And so I know you and I both know Kevin Douglas and these actors. I reviewed the show a couple of years ago when I was at DU. Really great play, and I know you went and saw it the other night as well, right?
I had seen it back when it was at DU. I did not make it over to the opening night. I was over at the What the Constitution Means to Me that night, which I guess we'll talk about in a minute. But it's a really special show that's been birthed out of DU. Two really incredible performances over there, and it's really nice to hear that it translates well to the new space over at the People's Building. That's a great location for the show.
Yeah. Next up, you just reviewed Year with Frog and Toad, which is at the Arvada Center through February 24th, and then it returns April 25th through May 17th. What was your take on Year with Frog and Toad?
It makes a great case that there's an also incredible children's theater that is consistently happening in Colorado. It was a really fun show. I mean, it's a lot of actors who you've definitely seen in other spaces. Nick Rick Johnson, Lainey Rick Johnson as well, Caleb Wegner, bunch of just other really talented actors on the stage, and it is super sharply directed. The kids that I was there, I guess it was a field trip day or something. I don't know. It was all kids, and there was a whole bunch of buses outside, and they were just losing their mind at it. I was like, you gotta love the kids' humor in there. There's a lot of dumb songs about cookies and bathing suit fun, and there's a lot of fun lessons in there just about like sticking by your friend, and so. I thought it was really great production for kids. It's a little bit different than Misery, what we were just talking about. But it was very well done in its own regard. And Brian Malgrave does both the sets and the costumes over there. And I want to particularly shout out his work because he really does a nice job making these two-dimensional illustrations kind of pop in a 3D setting. Particularly the inventive costume design. It is he really does a nice job at gesturing at animals and the animal setting without just being like we're in an animal costume. Look at the like a mascot or something. Like there's a really clever design with like the snail's backpack and the frog and the toad are done by different suits and colored things. So it's a very, very well done production. If you've got a kid in your life, I think that you should definitely find a way to take them.
Yeah. Well, as any parent or grandparent will tell you, one of the joys of having little kids is that you get to go see those things again, and because they're always fun. And you wouldn't necessarily go without a kid; you look like a weirdo, unless you're Toni, because you're a reviewer and you're there for a particular reason.
Indeed,
but yeah,
I did feel like a weirdo though. I was like, what? I was like, oh jeez. I was like,
hey, where's your kid, Toni?
I think it made sense because I had my notebook and everything. I was clearly there for work.
Right.
I left immediately, but I was like, oh, geez. I was like, fair. I was like, this needs to get written about, but I do feel weird. I do feel a little weird.
Yeah.
I was not the only adult there, and I was not the only adult without kids there. I guess there were some other folks who were maybe writing something or doing something. So that made me feel a little bit better. They at least sat me in that section. It wasn't like I was sitting next to all the children, but I was like, I got to get out of here.
All right. Well, speaking of kids shows, BETC, the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, is doing their first kids show. It's called Mad Librarians, and it plays through February 10th at the Savoy in Denver, and then it'll be in Boulder back in May at the Dairy, and our reviewer Jamisha Lenoff is going there with her little boy today, I think. So we'll have a review of that. Also, Betsy is doing Love Letters, the A.R. Gurney two-hander, I think, that's everybody likes to do on Valentine's Day. And apparently they sold out the evening performance, so they just added a matinee. So that is on Valentine's Day. And of course, they're still, they have What the Constitution Means to Me running through February 11th. And that also will be in back up in May at the Dairy. And you saw that we just have your review online. So a quick hit on that.
Yeah, it's a really great play. It kind of bounces between comedy and drama. It stars Jessica Robley and Rodney Lizago. I think that's how you say his last name.
Lizcano?
He's Lizcano.
I think so.
Rodney Lizcano. And they're both really great in the space. The director really kind of it's a lot smaller of a playing space than anything I've ever seen in the Savoy, as you know, and from being in there. It's a really deep playing space. There's a lot of room in there. You can kind of move the space around to be whatever you'd like. And the director really limits the space to create a really intimate American Legion Hall, which is the setting for these debates that Heidi Schreck, who's the playwright that Jessica Robley is playing, used to debate the Constitution in. And what precedes is kind of a memoir play reenactment of these debates / interspersion with her own real life experiences in there. It really teeters between hilarious and then like really painfully raw. Like there's a line of Jessica just delivers a really emotional performance. I mean, I would say it's urgent viewing for anybody who cares about the country. If you don't care about America, you're fine. Maybe you can skip it. But anybody else, I would definitely say you should probably check it out.
Okay.
It's asking urgent questions that I think every citizen should really be considering.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting. I noticed that Alison Watrous directed this, and she is normally she heads up like the education arm over at the Denver Center and is in charge of like the kids shows and other educational outreach things there. So it was cool to see her out and about doing a show with another theater. Yeah,
I didn't actually know that. Interesting. I was like, she does a really nice job, Alison. It was really good, really really well put together production. Paced very very well.
Another kids show I am going to today, I think I mentioned Amelia's Big Idea at Miners Alley is running through February 10th and then coming back again in March and into April. So I'm taking my granddaughter Lindsay over there today. It's going to be challenging because apparently it's Goldens and Golden Day where everybody brings their golden retrievers.
It is. Yes.
And of course it's like raining and sleeting and
it's a not so golden a day for Golden Day in Golden, but I have not ever been in Golden for that, but I have heard from Lynn Mateo and Lisa DeCaro that it is hellish in the Golden on Golden Day. Like the town explodes over there. So good luck finding parking. Godspeed to you, Alex.
I know. Well, I'm kind of hoping that this bad weather maybe is keep the crowds down a little bit because nobody likes a wet dog. So, all right. Another show that coming that you just reviewed at Curious, Truth Be Told, that is running through February 10th. And we talked about that last time. And then Cebollas at Denver Center Theater Company runs through March 10th. And you just saw that as well. So if you want to hit on that.
Yeah, I did. I'll be penning a review for the site soon, but a quick few thoughts out of that. It's a road trip comedy about three sisters in New Mexico who have to transport a dead body across state lines to Denver.
Right.
And that's the premise. It's a very funny premise. Not everything about the play works. There's some jokes that don't quite work, but the emotional beats really land, and the three actors, particularly Celia, who is she's particularly impressive in there, and they have this car effect that creates a pretty realistic way of doing the car. Just a couple of interesting things. A couple of small quibbles with it, but it's very convincing effect when the car itself comes out and moves and is driving along the stage. It's an interesting play. This is the world premiere over there. I know you caught it at the Summit.
Yeah, I just started reading it a couple of years ago at the Colorado New Play Summit, which, by the way, is coming up again in March. So think about checking that out.
February.
Oh, February. Oh, it's coming up. Oh, that's this month, right? Oh, yeah.
It's this month. I know.
I know I have it blocked out. I know I've been waiting for it for so long. It seems like it's finally here. Also, Crazy for You opens at Candlelight this weekend, February 8th, all the way into April 7th. And our reviewer, Carrie, will have a story about that one pretty soon. I don't know that show. Do you know what that one's about?
I do. I was just talking with Steve Wilson, who is the director over there, about the production. It's a big spectacle musical about this banker who comes in to purchase a theater to destroy it, but then he falls in love with the theater manager, and she changes his perspective. And through a whole lot of tap dancing and the power of love and theater, the day is saved.
Okay.
And so it's a Crazy for You. It's apparent, like, Steve, in our conversation, was just really emphasizing how much the fun he wanted to create in this. He's like, it's a big spectacle musical with a lot of fun choreography, and he was really hyping up the three actors he's got at the helm of it to be like. And I couldn't do this show without these incredible dancers and triple threats at the helm. So Candlelight always does a really nice job over there. I'll be checking this one out on Valentine's Day, actually. Gonna go see Crazy for You, this wild love story then. So I'm looking forward to it. They always do a nice job up there.
Yeah, they do. And if you haven't been to Candlelight, it's a little out of the way. You got to drive up I-25 about 45 minutes an hour north of Denver. But boy, great show. And their food is pretty good too. It's definitely a step up from your rubber chicken meals. So
yeah. It's you would not expect Johnstown, this like kind of cowy town, to have like this amazing dinner theater out there. And yeah, the food is. I have not had a bad meal there. So,
Cowy town, I like it. Okay, so
I can say that I'm from a cow town. Okay, so I was like,
all right. Also on stage now, or opening soon, is going to whip through this Secret Comedy of Women at the Denver Center Garner Galleria. Runs through February 28th. Flower Power Murder is at Adams Mystery Playhouse in Denver through February 24th. Longmont Theater is doing I Hate Hamlet, and that runs this weekend through February 10th. Always a funny show. Colorado Ballet has got Jekyll and Hyde, and our reviewer Alice will be at that one. And also at Firehouse, the Nekarima Society will be there at the John Hand Theater, and that opens tonight and runs through March 2nd. So Eric will be at that one. And I was looking up that it says the play takes place in Alabama in 1964 at the 100th anniversary of introducing African American debutantes to a world of wealth and privilege. What would go wrong? It says. Art is at Aurora Fox, and that opens tonight as well and runs through February 25th, and Eric will have a review of that. Down in the Springs, Annapurna is at the Springs Ensemble Theater Company, February 1st through the 18th. This is a relationshipy two-hander set in the Colorado Rockies by the playwright Shar White. Picasso at the Lapanagile is at Stage Door in Conifer, and that just opened this weekend and runs through February 25th. And then our good friend Betty Hart returns in Acts of Faith for local theater company at the Dairy tonight through February 18th. A young woman mistaken for a prophet. Wheat Ridge Theater Company has Triumph of Love, a gender-bending musical running February 2nd through the 18th. And at the Ent Center in Colorado Springs, they're doing Dream House through February 15th. It's a dark comedy about two Latina sisters who I think their mom dies, and they wind up trying to renovate their show renovate their house on a home renovation show. So for Sting fans, Message in a Bottle is going to be a Broadway touring show coming through the Buell February 10th through 18th. And it sounds like it's more of a dance thing with Sting music than something.
Correct.
And then also our old friends, the Improvised Shakespeare Company, return to the Garner Galleria February 7th all the way through March 31st. If you haven't seen these guys, and even if you have, go check them out. It's so much fun. They do they just throw out a couple of audience suggestions, and they put together on the spot a Shakespeare-like show. Very funny, very enjoyable evening.
Gotta get it though. I have not actually seen them live, but I love improv and I love Shakespeare. So these are like the two of my special interests thrown into one show.
All right. Okay, out in Glenwood, the Glenwood Springs Vaudeville have their new spring show starting February 9th and running all the way into June. If you're up there, that's a ton of fun. It's kind of an old school kind of theatrical experience. Way down in Durango, Merely Players is doing Small Mouth Sounds February 9th through 18th. And then, as I mentioned, the UpstART Theatre in Ouray is doing Heroes of the Fourth Turning through that's February 2nd through 5th. And speaking of, we're going to have my interview with Kate Kissingford with UpstART here in just a second. So hang on for that interview, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, we're here with Kate Kissingford, all the way down in Ouray, Colorado, and she is the founder and artistic director of the UpstART Theatre company down there. And you were just telling me the full name. Can you remind me of that one?
Yeah, we're UpstART Theatre That Moves.
Okay, and so what is that? What do you mean by theater that moves?
Great question. First of all, thanks for having me here. I'm so excited. This is fantastic. Well, when we were thinking what to call ourselves, we were really looking at the quality of our theater, what we offer. And Theater That Moves represents fast-paced, selecting works that really move the needle in terms of individual audience members thinking, perspective, walking out feeling like something has changed in them after seeing a show. Also moving as in the emotional, to be moved. We really strive for that. When I say we, I'm talking about my husband, John Kissingford, who is also a co-founder and managing director. And so when we're looking at scripts, we want people to be emotionally moved. And, this might be lofty, but hoping to move the needle in our community, at least, in terms of dialogue, in terms of, changes that need to be made in our greater culture as well.
Okay, great. Well, so yes, it's wonderful to talk to you as well. We don't often hear from people all the way down in that corner of the state, one of the most beautiful parts of Colorado, down at Ouray, down near Telluride there. And we're going to talk about your upcoming production of Heroes of the Fourth Turning in just a couple of minutes. But I want to ask a little bit about the genesis of the theater. When did it start? You were telling me that you and your husband originally from Denver. So how did this come to be that you wound up down there in Ouray with a theater company?
Yeah. So this is our 8th season. It's hard for me to believe, but so John and I moved down here 10 years ago. But we had met and married in Montrose, Colorado. Gosh, when did we marry? 1999, long time ago. And we left to pursue theater training and to perform. And we wound up back in Denver. And we had a child and, had that dream of we'd love our kiddo to walk out the front door and just roam. And can't do that in Denver. So we eventually decided to come back to this area, and Ouray had always been a very special place for us. Additionally, when we had our first company, No Holds Barred, in Denver, we would come every summer to Ridgeway, Ouray, and perform. And so we knew we kind of had an audience. We had a connection there. Yeah. And so when we first came, we wanted to do it slow and check out what else was going on. There's a community theater down here, Ouray County Players, and they do a delightful melodrama and radio play for the holidays. And so trying to figure out how we could augment the theater scene here. Right. And we jumped in.
Great. Yeah, I was going to ask you what was in existence down there for theater. So it sounds like a fairly limited schedule of a kind of particular type of theater, melodramas, right. So what kind have you thought of? So you come from a Shakespeare background to some extent. You do a Shakespeare show every year in the summer, you said.
Yes, we continued No Holds Barred and just put it under the UpstART umbrella, and we use first folio technique, which we've been doing since 2005. Both John and I spent a couple summers at New England Shakespeare Festival, which is no longer in operation, but was really strictly first folio. And when I say strictly, I mean it's strictly very true to the original form. And so we learned that, and we brought it to Denver and had a small group of actors who loved it. And we would just put on productions every summer. So we still do that, but we were really hungry to expand into modern works as well. And we really believe that this county could sustain and support professional quality theater. And that was really our goal. So we hire professionals from all over the country. And then we have a core of theater trained locals that jump in as well. And we just really love that cross-pollination. It creates a very vibrant, albeit short-lived community, while we're doing production.
Right.
But we're always trying to expand that as well.
So you bring in some professional actors from different parts of the country, and you have to house them.
Yes, we do. And we have wonderful community volunteers that open their homes to actors. And I feel like we have some really good digs here for actors when they stay.
Yeah. I know a lot of actors who get the chance to go to like Creed or Breckenridge, or they might be New York actors, and it's like, sure, I will spend the summer in the Colorado mountains. So it's one of the reasons why we have so much great talent that comes into the state in the summertime. Maybe it's not as easy to do that if you're I don't know, some little town in outside Cleveland or something. I don't know.
Truly, we really feel like Ouray itself is such a huge asset to attracting talent.
Right. Yeah. So for those who may not be as familiar with First Folio, and I think the Colorado Shakespeare Festival, they do one every year. They use a different term. I can't remember. It's like original
practices, I think they call it.
Right. So what does that look like for a person coming in to see a Shakespeare show that's done in that original form?
Yeah. So obviously we have to adapt a little bit for modern actors, because modern actors just don't have the muscle memory for, reading a script once and then being able to do the role. So we have a training every season where we learn the rules and how to apply them. There are very specific rules about how to interpret the text. We train actors and then send them off to work just with their part, which means they only have the last 4 words of their cue line. They don't know who says it. And then they have their lines. And so they'll meet individually. John is sort of the coach for actors on meaning making with Shakespeare and making sure you're understanding exactly what you're saying and what the rules are and how it goes. And then after that session, actors just do their work, and then they show up prepared. And we literally have 3 to 4 days of putting together fights, music, and dance. Those are the things that we rehearse just to make sure no one gets hurt. And we have an onstage prompter, and actors have their own cue script. And it's literally their script rolled up on a couple dowels, and they're encouraged to use that on stage as a safety net. Of course, they've come memorized, but as all actors know, just because you're memorized in your living room doesn't mean you're memorized when you're on your feet.
Yep.
And so the onstage prompter becomes a really fun element to the show, where when we used to do it outside, which we don't anymore, the prompter would have to stop the action and really navigate interruptions like loud motorcycles or planes overhead or a drunken person in the audience. We've had that a few times, and kind of the ringmaster. And so it adds a level of excitement. It adds a level of you have to be really present as an actor on stage to be listening for your cue, because you don't know what character is going to say it. And so it's more like a sporting event than like a museum piece. It's really live and really visceral and fun.
Yeah, that's wild. That's really cool that you're doing that First Folio Productions there. Yeah. So what else? I wanted to ask you about. Are you still acting? Are you and Sean still getting on stage? Or are you just directing and running the show, or both?
Yeah, for financial reasons, we hire ourselves a lot because we're free.
Yeah.
So we will fill in for local roles. In fact, in Heroes, I'm playing the part of Gina. And I'm also directing. So yeah, we definitely choose scripts where we can jump in, but we try not to overdo it. and cast other locals too. But we pay everybody.
Right.
Because it's really important. I just want to shout out to actors. It's their body on stage, and want to make sure people are paid and respected in that way.
Right. What about your funding? What's it like down there? Is it just the usual combination of ticket sales and the goodness of people's hearts to donate, or do you have other grants or things like that?
We have an amazing relationship with the Wright Opera House here, and that building in and of itself deserves some attention because it's this historic building that has been renovated by the Friends of the Wright Opera House. And they're really turning their attention now toward more programming since the building is almost finished. But we have a co-production partnership. So they will hire us essentially for a performance. And then both our organizations are fundraising for the rest of the costs. We have, individual donations and also organizational donations, the Ouray County Community Fund and Western Slope Community Fund. The local businesses, a couple banks give us grants each year. So really, that was kind of one of our goals. The reason we're kind of starting to talk and become more known in the greater Colorado area is because we really had to focus on these first 8 years building relationships here so that we could be sustained. I think that's the one thing that's been really important to us is that we get local buy-in first. And we seem to have gotten that, both financially but audience base. And we're super grateful. But our larger goal is to become more regionally accessible, like folks from Junction or Durango or whatnot coming to see some theater.
Okay, that's great.
I'm sure it's not easy to get that out, is it? Let's see. Notifications.
I wanted to ask, do you know what you're doing this summer for your Shakespeare show?
Yeah, we'll be doing As You Like It.
All right, that's a good one. And do you have any other plays that you're doing along with that in the summertime?
No, well, yes. At the beginning of summer, we'll be doing Good People. So our full season, 23-24, we just completed Everybody by Jacob Jenkins. What's his first name? Brandon Jacob Jenkins. Uh-huh. And then obviously Heroes and Good People, David Lindsay Abaire, and then As You Like It. So as you can tell from the titles, we try to do challenging material.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Heroes of the Fourth Turning. So I saw this show at Curious Theater, did it in the fall of 22. Mm-hmm. It's a play by Will Arbery, and it's got it really gets into the zeitgeist of the whole polarization of America, but in a really unique way. It's not just an on your nose, like I'm a conservative and you're a liberal and let's fight. It's a really intense show. And you said you playing the part of Gina, which is that the professor?
Yeah.
Okay. That seems like a good role for you. So and when you first reached out to me, you said, well, it was really interesting to be in a county like Ouray where it's fairly conservative and programming theater can be a bit of a challenge. So how did scheduling Heroes of the Fourth Turning fit into that reality?
Yeah, and I would say actually that Ouray County is pretty balanced between on the spectrum of conservative and progressive. We have pretty good representation on the whole spectrum here now. It used to be primarily conservative. And, similarly with, and I think this is applicable to the play, the spiritual spectrum. We have folks who are like spiritual but not religious, and then we have very devout religious folks. And one of the things that I've loved about living here is that I feel by and large people have navigated those differences really well here in the sense of treating each other with respect. And
what? In America? You're raised in America, right?
Exactly. But what was really interesting to me was in the summer of 2022, I also saw the Curious production. But in the summer of 2022, before I saw that production, we did have a drag queen story hour for the first time at the library here in Ouray. And there was a protest that was organized by the Republican Party Montrose, Junction. So we had a lot of Montrose and Junction people come down and tell us
Oh boy.
how they felt about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some local Urayans. And I remember having that experience and feeling like surprised by some of the folks that were vocal against drag queen story art. Just surprised because I didn't know that was their point of view. And it made me realize we're really not talking about the real stuff here in terms of crossing the political or religious spectrum to have real dialogue. We're being kind and nice, I think, by and large, respectful, being neighborly in the post office, all that stuff. But I don't know that we're really talking about and allowing space for people's opinions. And so then I saw the Curious production. We take a group of students from Ouray High School to do a theater trip, 4 shows in 3 days. And we saw that Curious production of Heroes. And I was just blown away by watching a play where it was entirely focused on the nuance of conservative thought. I'd never seen that in my 30 plus years of making theater. There wasn't that inevitable battle between a progressive character and a conservative character. All the battles are within the conservative realm. And it was such a gift to me to just zip my lips and listen. And, I know it's a play, but the thing is, it's really well informed because, of course, Arbery grew up in that environment, a very conservative Catholic environment.
Right.
And so he has a lot of respect and kindness toward it. It's his family. And so you could feel that in the play. So that was the one level that was really eye-opening for me, is like, I'm really enjoying listening because this is a play and I can remove myself from having to prove any point. And what a gift. And then the other level and layer was what I'll just call magic realism. I don't know if you remember, but there's an element in the play that's never explained that's very powerful. And I just love that stuff. I love mystery. I love not having an answer for everything and walking away feeling like I'm going to chew on this for a while. And that's what I hope our audiences experience as well.
All right. Yeah, it is a challenging play, but you're able to cast it pretty well. I know there's a big part of the woman who's the sort of the conservative operative who comes to town, and I can't remember the character's name, but who did you get for
Teresa.
that?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Teresa.
Okay. And did you get, who's the actor playing that?
Well, yeah, let me get my little list here of all the actors. So we did have a shift in casting due to illness, and it just happened. So
No.
we have 2 weeks to integrate this new actor, but Noelia Burkus. And yeah.
It's so funny because Noelia was the
right.
person who played it here in Denver.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's great that she's doing it because she was amazing in that part.
Yeah. No, we were so lucky that she was available because the fact that she's done the role and did such a wonderful job when our other actor got sick. Yeah. So this is exceptional in that it's mostly professional out-of-town actors. I'm the only local, and we have 4 out-of-town actors from, Denver, New York, etc. And, we really had to audition for this one because our core company is 35 and older. And so we had to find some young folks. And actually that's been really fun to do that, to just get out there and see all the young talent.
Great.
Yeah.
And so that's you perform in the Wright Opera House?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And you say it's under renovation, but it's still able to be used.
Yeah, they have completed most of their renovations. It's gorgeous now.
I want to get down there and see that. Yeah. I saw that a long time ago, and I was like, wow, that and kind of like the some of the other old opera houses in Colorado are just really special,
incredible,
buildings. So
yeah, they really are.
All right. Well, so Heroes of the Fourth Turning is playing. Can you remind me of the dates?
February 2nd through 5th.
All right. And so if you're in the Denver area and you want to make the trek to Ouray, it's like, I don't know, what is it, like a 6-hour drive or something like that?
5.5, yeah, in good weather.
Yeah, of course. That's
fast.
if you have to drive I-70 at all, you might add another 5 hours to it.
Yeah.
Because you never know. So, all right. Well, Kate, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we go? Let me ask this. So for people that may want to travel down to Ouray, why should they make that trip in winter or summer? What's that town like?
Oh, wonderful question. Stunning. Just even driving from Montrose to Ouray and seeing the San Juan Mountains laid out in front of you is just breathtaking. And then once you're in the town of Ouray and you look up and you're surrounded by these mountains just literally hugging you the whole time.
Right.
There's a lot of exciting things to do outdoors. Ice climbing right now, of course, is a big attraction. The ice climbing festival is happening this weekend, and then that really opens the door for a lot of people to come in and just ice climb every week. What's interesting is I think there's a promotion right now for several of the hotels, like stay 2 nights, get the 3rd night free. So trying to make it affordable in the winter. If you like cross-country skiing, there's a lot of trails around for that as well. Restaurants are actually really good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I don't know if I can shout out to the particular ones, but they're all great. For any kind of mood you're in. Yeah. And I think the big benefit of coming here is the slowing down. Like you arrive here and you just want to slow down, and you do. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to speed things up, you're not too far from Telluride. You could even fly into Telluride and get a rental car and go to Ouray that way. It would speed things up. Although it might be a little spendy.
It's spendy. We're the more affordable option.
Yeah. That's right. So, all right. Well, Kate Kissingford with UpstART Theatre down in Ouray. Thanks so much for jumping on the podcast and telling us about that wonderful theater program that you have going on down there. I wish you best of luck. Break legs with Heroes of the Fourth Turning.
Thanks so much, Alex. I appreciate it.
All right, that's it for this week's episode of the OnStage Colorado Podcast. Thanks so much to Kate Kissingford for filling us in on the theater scene in Ouray. We'll be back next week with an interview with Josh Blanchard, who's the director of Colorado Creative Industries, and we'll talk about this part of our state government, how it works with arts organizations around Colorado, and how they're hoping to get a shot in the arm of funds this year. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the OnStage Colorado Podcast, wherever you get your audio stuff, and please give us a review or a couple of stars if you're liking the show, and let the other theater lovers in your life know about us. Also, be sure to check out all the reviews, news, other podcast episodes, and our full statewide theater calendar on the website at onstagecolorado.com.
And do not ever be afraid to get in touch with us. You can always reach out to us at info@onstagecolorado.com. We love to hear from you. Let us know what you're excited about in theater upcoming, and maybe we will read your comment on an upcoming episode of the podcast.
All right. Well, I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Toni Tresca.
And we'll see you at the show.
We'll see you at the theater.
All right.
See you at the show. Yeah.